George's on Vista is the local bistro at Fraser Rise in Caroline Springs, situated at the George Cross Soccer Club at City Vista Reserve. With the current COVID-19 pandemic, we've adjusted our menu and our business times. Bistro dining is back with 2 dining sessions Monday to Saturday between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. Numbers are limited, so bookings are essential on 7021 0555. Head to georgesonvista.com.au to check out the menu and the dining times. We're also doing takeaway 5 nights a week, Monday to Friday. You can order your meal, kids' meals, or your favourite snack meals via email. info@georgesonvista.com.au or phone your order through on the night between 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. on 7021 0555. Or better still, just rock up on the night and place your order. Visit georgesonvista.com.au to see the dine-in and takeaway menus and for business hours. Get behind local business and dine in or order your next takeaway dinner from George's on Vista, 46 City Vista Court, Fraser Rise, in the heart of Caroline Springs.
Good evening and a very, very warm welcome to you. It's episode 28 of the Football Out West show, and a very, very warm welcome to you wherever you may be joining us on tonight's big show. My name is Tonci Prusac, and joining me is none other than my co-host, Craig Filer. Craig, a very, very good evening and very warm welcome to you. How are you, mate?
Very well, Tonch. Thank you. Nice and relaxed after a long weekend. So God bless Her Majesty for the extra day's holiday. So I've had a good day's rest and now back into the swing of things. So you're having a bit of trouble with your internet tonight.
I'm having it's amazing. I know Optus this morning said that they were doing some maintenance in my area, and that everything was done and dusted and sorted. It doesn't look like it is, actually. Now, for all you good folks at home, what is happening is, on my end, things are buffering, but in the stratosphere, the internet atmosphere out there, things are going great. They're not buffering. So I'm kind of not really sure when something plays, and you don't know how long before they actually go on live. But hopefully that little intro there, we kind of somehow managed to synchronize it. But, putting that aside, mate, let's not talk about our freaking internet issues. Let's talk about tonight. And tonight, look, mate, we got a lot happening on tonight's show, haven't we? And
yeah, as always, we always seem to have a lot going on, Tonch, and every week we come up with the goods. So, really pleased tonight to have the CEO of Western United on board, and we are a radio station. We are a station or a show for the football out in the West.
Yeah,
and it's a great pleasure to get him on the show tonight to talk about the trials and tribulations of running a league football club from the man himself. So. Really glad to get him on. So looking forward to some good chats. Hopefully the viewers will come on and give a good insight and some questions as well. And we should have a fantastic show.
Well, absolutely. Chris Pehlivanis, the Western United Chief Executive, he is in the green room and he is eagerly awaiting us. There's a lot of interesting stuff that's happening around the football circles, I guess, and we'll be talking about that a little bit later on. Everyone who does join in, we urgently want you to send your comments. Be a part of tonight's show. And in fact, later on, we're going to also show you how you can be an active member of this support and an active supporter of this show by becoming a member. So very, very important discussion forum. We're going to be talking a lot about that. We have got two members. We've got a gold VIP member. We've got a silver member as well. The gold VIP member, Paul de Blasi, and very, very big big appreciation announcement here. Thank you to Paul and also to Christopher Cruz, and he's the silver member. And Chris is actually the guy that really brought this to our attention, and he was the one that really sort of kicked it off from our end. So a big cheerio to Chris Cruz and Paul de Blasi, who I'm sure are watching the show tonight. But before we do anything like that, mate, we're going to get into the news desk. And so don't go away. We're going to be right back with the news.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Thursday night news section. So there's a lot been happening around the Victorian football front, and we'll start off with some good news, I suppose, coming from out of Football Federation around the Australia 2023 Women's World Cup bid, which has received a massive boost with FIFA bid evaluation report marking the joint Aussie and the New Zealand bid as the highest overall, with an average score of 4.1 out of 5, which is fantastic news. They're a couple of points ahead at the moment of Japan, who are on 3.9, and Colombia at 2.8. But the big news is that Brazil have pulled out last week due to the COVID-19 crisis. So it really puts Australia-New Zealand bid in a positive frame coming into the decision, which will be made in just over 2 weeks' time on the 25th of June. So fingers crossed, Tonci. If it happens, I think it's going to be fantastic for football in this country, not only for men's football but also for women's, and it's going to give a big impetus into the game and hopefully further develop both the female and the male participation.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I'm not going to get too excited. We've seen what's our past track record with FIFA, with the men's bid, the men's World Cup bid, and I think even at that stage we were looking really good when they announced all of this. So look, don't want to get too excited until the D-Day. But having said
you've got
that,
to look at the situation, Tonci, of where we are. You've got to look at I suppose the bubble that Australia and New Zealand are in compared to the other countries around the world. Japan, it's not a million miles away from China, and obviously Colombia is in South America, where Brazil have pulled out because of the situation. So I think we're in a really good position. Fingers crossed, as I say. Hopefully the 25th of June comes and Australia and New Zealand get the bid, and won't it be fantastic to see the Women's World Cup here?
Absolutely, and I think like whatever the outcome. Well, obviously, we want the World Cup. We definitely want the World Cup to be hosted here in Australia. And but I think even now, the whole over the last 12 months, ever since the bid's been gathering pace, there's been a real excitement about women's football. We saw the W League in the season just gone by getting unbelievable coverage, probably the best coverage it's ever got. It's not good enough. We need to have it more. Lots of facilities have been improved. Lots of money has been put into facilities, and that's thanks to the female game. Female-friendly facilities. We hear that all the time, and it's great that that's happening. But imagine, But Craig, imagine that in 2023, Australia was to host the Women's World Cup, and look, Australia hosted the Women's Asian qualifiers, at basically with overnight's notice, and did extremely well. So Japan's our biggest threat there. But having said that, fingers crossed, toes crossed, shoelaces crossed, everything crossed.
Yeah, let's hope for football in Australia. I think it'll be a massive boost for the sport.
Yeah. Craig, you've got this nice new shiny microphone, and some of our listeners are saying talk into the microphone or turn the microphone up a little bit. So
I can't. I'm not sure why you can't hear me. Is it any better? I have no idea. I've turned it up as high as I can. So we'll do what we can. Paul, I can see Paul Guthrie's comment there. So Paul, maybe get a little bit closer to the screen.
All right, what else is happening in the world of news, world of football?
Okay, so we're just going to touch on Melbourne Victory today have announced their new interim coach. Grant Brebner takes to the helm. Coincidentally, he's their third coach within the season. Grant, who played for the club from the UK originally and has now taken over for the remainder of the season, apparently. And he had to say that we want the players to play with the freedom, embrace the brand of football that our club has been known for over the past 15 years. We have a great opportunity over the coming months to build some foundations which the next head coach can build on for next season. So it's clearly being pointed out to him that it is an interim job. They must have somebody in line for next season, but for now it's about steadying the ship, I suppose, and trying to get some kind of compromise there at the club. You know, having had three coaches in a season, which is not good for any club.
No, that's right. And look, from what I can gather, Brebner is in fact a what you could call a career coach at Melbourne Victory. He's involved in I guess the fact that is it involved with might be one of the youth teams or the NPL side or one of the academy sides down there. So he's definitely someone who's knows the club culture well. Not only that, but he also has come up through the ranks. I think he was obviously played with Kevin Muscat, mentored by Kevin Muscat in the coaching side of things. I wonder if he's going to adapt a very rugged, aggressive style of football, which was synonymous with his playing style as well. But that will be interesting. And it's good to see we're finally getting some news coming from the A-League world. There's another bit of news today where there was talk that Wellington Phoenix are talking about or wanting to put a team in the W League competition. What made it interesting was the fact that they were actually suggesting, or the report suggested, that they possibly could base their team in Australia to cut the costs. What do you think of that?
That's a big statement to do. So,
isn't it?
Yeah, look, I don't know how I feel about that. Great to get more teams in the Women's Premier League for sure. But we'll have to wait and see because obviously they've had issues with their senior side over the years. Obviously being on the other side of the ditch. So yeah, we'll watch that space and see what comes out. But just coming back to local football, Tonci, and the Victoria Football Victoria rather. I've held some meetings over the last few days, I understand, via a number of different platforms, predominantly Zoom, where they've talked about the recommencing of the JPNPL, we'll say Junior Premier League for boys, for the competition for 2020. So Football Victoria targets a recommencement of the junior football program in 2020 on Saturday, 4th of July, 2020, subject to government approval. Now, if you remember, it originally was the week before, so they've obviously put it back another week. Football Victoria reiterates that this day may still be pushed back on government advice relating to the resumption of the full contact sport.
Mm-hmm.
Junior Premier League clubs must confirm their intention to Football Victoria on their team's participation in the 2020 competition by the close of business on Monday, the 15th of June, which is this coming Monday. And the target date for the resumption of full contact training is Monday, the 22nd of June, which we already knew. But of course, that's subject to government conditions.
Will be interesting. We can certainly see the light at the end.
I'll go on to just a couple of others, and it says Football Victoria will maintain the current Junior Premier League zones and fixtures. Any fixture change will communicate it to all the clubs. It is proposed that the junior clubs season will be played as originally scheduled, with 22-round home and away season of football comprising of a double header weekends. The remaining 4 pre-qualification matches, which was obviously postponed when COVID hit, will be completed over 2 weekends with the double headers scheduled for round 8 and 9 and 10 and 11. The targeted end date of the competition is weekend of the 1st of November. So that's another positive coming out, that it's going to be a full season for the juniors, which is really important. And it takes us right up to almost Christmas, and then a break, and then we start again.
Fantastic. Well, that's good news as far as the NPL juniors is concerned. The community club juniors, the proposed resumption date was the 28th of June. I get a feeling that'll probably be pushed back as well.
Yeah.
The community club seniors, and the senior NPL competitions. It was talked about on the weekend of the 10th and the 11th of July. You reckon that'll be pushed back as well, Craig?
Don't know, no, Tonci. I think the fact that the juniors have been pushed back a week, I see no reason why it should. If everything's in place, football's ready. Let's get it going, as we said over the last couple of weeks. Let's get football back on the parks. There will be a lot of changes. There's rumours going around that nobody will be able to attend any games. It's a drop off. I also heard that potentially there won't be any use of changing rooms for the first couple of weeks of the seasons either. So that's both juniors and seniors. So that'll be interesting how teams manage with that. But that's hearsay at the moment. I'm sure, as things progress with the government, that may be softened a little bit as we go on.
It's funny though, but most of these NPL clubs would have multiple change rooms, wouldn't they? Most of them would have 4 change rooms, for example. I know down at North Geelong at your club, they've got about 6 or 7, if not more, change rooms. Couldn't you somehow socially distance and utilize it? If nothing else, at least for the home team, you'd be thinking that. All right, the away team, of course, they're going to get treated a little bit differently, but you'd think that maybe, at least for the home team, you could, socially distance. All right, maybe not showers and things like that, but people can still get changed. It is strange times ahead. I think, though, the keys here is going to be that June 21 deadline, isn't it? I think. Yeah,
22nd. I think everybody's chomping at the bit for that 22nd announcement of when we can start. I'm training, and it's very hard. It's not the same. You're doing ball movement and passing, and it's not football, and it's not the way football's supposed to be played. But we are in a real unusual situation, and at least we're out there, at least we're training, at least the boys are getting a bit of a sweat on and back kicking the football, which is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. What else? Any other news happening around the country, around the world? Well, actually, a lot happening around the world. They're saying the EPL is back, not this weekend, the following weekend. So in Europe, we're seeing a lot of leagues now starting to come back bit by bit. The Bundesliga now it's like they've been playing for years. It seems, it's all old news.
Watching football with no crowds.
You can put the crowd effects. You can do all of that kind of stuff, but it's not the same, is it?
No, it's not the same. It must be very, very difficult for players as well to. I know they're professional and they go through their routines of match, but it must be very difficult when you walk out of that tunnel. Imagine Manchester United walking out into Old Trafford with nothing. 70,000 seater stadium. It must be very hard for them. But that's why they get paid the big bucks, Tonci.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, they are professionals at the end of the day. And how many times you hear from people players writing in their memoirs or autobiographies that it was cutthroat at training. And let's face it, it's probably in many cases, particularly at those bigger clubs, it's more cutthroat in training than it is on match day, because in training, you've got teammates out to literally break your leg because they want your spot. Because if they don't, they're going to be sitting on the pine, or they'll be playing for the reserves. So it can get quite competitive in training. Well, I guess
absolutely, and that's the way it should be. You're all vying for that 11 places, and the coach can only pick 11 starting members. So you perform in training, you put yourself in a position where you can be selected. And if you don't, and you just turn up and go through the motions, well, it's a pretty easy decision for the coach, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of these players now will also be playing for contracts for next year. So
so it's a lot at stake, without a doubt.
Yeah, with all the situation around sponsorship and et cetera, and where's the money going to come from? There'll be a lot of nervous footballers around the world now who, when they put on those boots and they go into training, they got to try as hard as they can, harder than ever, because they need that contract.
Yeah, look, it's going to be a very, very interesting time ahead. Look, particularly not just the EPL, but like we said, a lot of the other leagues around Europe as well are starting to come back. I did see something today the MLS, the American Major League Soccer, is looking at coming back playing in a tournament-style environment. That's going to be interesting. I'm not too sure how that's going to go down, but it has been mooted, that it's going to be something more like a stopgap measure before the next season starts. But on another note, Craig, a lot of local Aussie rules competitions, Aussie rules leagues and netball leagues are calling it quits.
Yeah.
Will that, in your opinion, have an effect on our game?
Will it have an effect? I'm not sure it'll have an effect. Should it have an effect? Absolutely, yes, it should. Because if it was me, I'd be doing everything in my powers to try and get those kids that are playing AFL over to footy or to football. How you do that is very difficult. But there's an opportunity now. Again, we say we put ourselves in positions. We're in a position now where if Football Federation choose to, they can really be active out there now, trying to push football to those. Again, a lot of the AFL clubs that have cancelled this season are in remote areas.
Yeah.
So there could be a great opportunity for some of these clubs to get some of those young players. I know we were speaking to Simon Camilleri last week on the show about girls football, and we said to him, with the AFL cancelling, there may be an opportunity to grab some of the girls, because what are they going to do through their win? So look, I think it is. I think it's a great opportunity. Whether we do anything about it is the bigger question.
Yeah, interesting. And look, I know down Geelong way, 4 of the local leagues just during the week announced that they're not going to be playing. And that's just the seniors. Like the juniors are still going to go ahead, possibly talking about the women's football league is still going to go ahead. And that's obviously because no payments are involved. For me, the interesting thing, though, is locally, how will that translate into press, more press coverage for our game, number one. But number two, there have been over the years a lot of cross-code switching, particularly more at the social level. So you may get a lot of football players or netballers deciding to play soccer with their mates. Now, hopefully that is the case. And I know of a handful of people that have over the years, for whatever reason, injuries or getting too old or just socially, they've taken up soccer in their 20s, loved it. Didn't realize they loved it so much and have actually ended up playing the game for 3, 4, 5 years, or whatever the case may be. My point is, Football Victoria and the sport, obviously, is presented with a brilliant opportunity to do something. I don't know, to capitalize on this vacuum, if you like. But time will tell, and we'll see what happens. But mate, we're going to take a little bit of a break. Was there anything else that was happening of note?
Apparently not.
Oh, well, there you go. So we'll take a little bit of a break, and when we return on the other side of the break, we're going to have our first guest, and it's going to be none other than the CEO of Western United, Chris Pehlivanis. Have you got a business and you want to promote your brand to a ready-made audience? Have you got a birthday coming up in the family and would like to send that someone special a special message? Then why not consider a sponsorship on the Football Out West show? With an ever-growing audience right across Melbourne's western suburbs and the surrounding regions of Wyndham, Melton, Geelong, and even as far as Ballarat, your business or that special person in your life could become a household name. More importantly, you will be armed with the knowledge you are being part of a football show that is fast becoming a movement and a catalyst for great change in our wonderful game locally. The revolution is here, and we want you to jump on board and be. Welcome back to the Football Out West show. We're continuously seeming to have some sort of issues at the moment. Hopefully we're not going to have them for too much longer. Craig, are you there?
I am, yep.
Okay. Well, it's time to bring our next guest, or our first guest for today. And it's a very, very big welcome to the CEO of Western United, Chris Pehlivanis. Chris, how are you? Did I say that correctly? Pehlivanis. Oh, I've actually accidentally put him on mute. Oh, we just
Perfect.
brought him on and I've already put him on mute. How are you, Chris? How's things?
We're going well. No, thank you for having me, guys. And pronunciation was perfect.
Chris, well,
It looks like somebody set off a flare behind you, Chris.
Yeah.
You were chatting the smoke, mate. Is everything okay?
It's those Melbourne Victory supporters. We can't control them, but anyway.
Mate, firstly, thank you for joining us once again. Really do appreciate this. And tell us a bit about your journey in sports administration management, because you've been involved not only in our code, but you've been involved in a couple of other sports as well. So tell us the Chris Pehlivanis story.
Yeah, I have been involved in.
No, you're cutting out, Chris. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Okay, sorry. So yeah, I've been involved in sport predominantly most of my professional career, but I guess my journey in sport started as a young kid. I played football. Played football till I was probably about 18, and then had my second knee reconstruction where I stopped. So I played for East Bentley and Moorabbin City predominantly. Post that, I did my knee and got into refereeing. So I refereed in the Victorian football scene probably around 15 years. Qualified as a chartered accountant, and then decided to head over to Sydney and got a job for the Football Federation Australia for 3 years and worked there predominantly with A-League clubs, helping at the time a lot of the A-League clubs were in trouble. North Queensland, Adelaide, Brisbane, and a little bit Newcastle in terms of transitioning them from private ownership back to FFA and then back to private ownership. So played that role for a while. Sorry, guys, you can hear me, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Yep. Then post that, yes, I did that. We also worked on the failed World Cup bid. Did a little bit of financial due diligence for the guys on that, and learnt a lot of good lessons from that. Then had the opportunity to come back home, Melbourne's home, and come back home and got a job in the AFL with the Essendon Football Club for a period of 8 years, where I worked myself up to CFO for the last 4 to 5 years. I joined Essendon just before obviously the famous drug saga. So during my time at Essendon, it was a good opportunity for a young sports administrator, not only to learn about sports governance, but how to set up an organisation and ensure that you're putting in the right processes and systems to ensure that you have the ability to lead an elite culture, but also ensure that operating in the realm of what sport is or what we all love about sport. And then the opportunity came to join the Western United group and the Western Melbourne group just before the start of the A-League season in their first season. So I joined 2-3 weeks before the start of the A-League season, the inaugural A-League season. Fair to say there was a lot of work to be done, and the guys put a mountain of work, because the bid was, if we've got to remember, that Western United was born or came alive in December the year before, and 9 months later we had to have an A-League team playing professional football in the A-League, which, if you think about it and you go, wow, what an achievement just to get a team up and running, let alone a successful organisation both on and off the field. So yeah, that's my career in a nutshell. I joined Western United, I guess. We can touch on it a bit later, but I was just excited to get back into football, and I saw the opportunity of being part of a startup as something special. I can't hear Craig.
Sorry, Craig. I'll just, you there? Yep.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Say that again, yeah. We just lost you for a sec.
Chris, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good, perfect. So I was just saying, coming into a job, a CEO at any major club in Australia is a tough gig. But obviously, the inaugural season as well, it would have had its fair share of challenges both on and off the park. And obviously now you've had to deal with the crippling COVID pandemic. How have you found your baptism so far?
Yeah, every job's hard, and I guess we're privileged. Let's get something. I know a lot of people complain when they work in sporting organisations and all similar organisations. We're privileged because we work in sport. So you'll never hear me complaining about working at Western United or any other sporting organisation, because It's a job, but it's also our passion and our love. And I mean, we've got a unique opportunity at Western United. Yeah, things aren't perfect. Yeah, things can be better. But when you have an opportunity to build something from scratch, when you have an opportunity to, take people on a journey, unite the West, get an opportunity to, build a club, in Melbourne that is geographic, has this opportunity to, engage all football fans in the West. It's something that, I couldn't pass up on. A lot of people ask me, why'd you leave Essendon to go to Western United, a successful AFL club? You're going to leave and join a startup club. It was the most exciting job, I reckon, in sport, and we all hear the rumours, we're not going to build a stadium. I've seen some of the guys, Joseph asked a question earlier about, what's going to happen with our stadium, and we'll touch on that later. But from my point of view, I mean, the two competitive advantages this organisation's got are we are from the West, we have got geographic boundaries, and the second one is we are going to be the first privately owned stadium club to own its own stadium in the West. So I know people are getting impatient about when we're going to start and all that, and I know we're going to have good news in the coming months, but there's a lot of work being done and we've spent a lot of money, and I'll touch on that later on. But so yeah, it was really exciting to join Western United, and it's been crippling. It's been in terms of COVID and all of that, but we're in an interesting situation. COVID has provided us opportunities too to, focus on what is important, what we want to be about for season 2, because season 1 was rushed. So season 2, let's put some more foundations in. So when we do get in our stadium, seasons 3 or 4, we're a polished outfit both on and off the field.
Let's talk about the club at the moment. How is the club travelling both on and off the field? Off the field, firstly, members. How many members has the club managed to attract in season 1? And has that figure exceeded, matched, or fallen short of what the club was budgeting for?
Yeah, so good question. 5,000. We're just over 5,000 members. Again, I'll say, for me personally, I think that's a great achievement. For something that was born 9 months ago, to have 5,000 people commit and transact with our club within a membership, I think is an amazing achievement. Mm-hmm. I'm ambitious. Why don't we go to 7, 8, 9, 10,000 next year? I'm not going to put a target to it, but I'm ambitious that we can grow that number. For many reasons, I think we've got to do. The West is very big. We played in Geelong, we played in Ballarat, we even tried it with an Oval again. We've got to come, closer to the heartland of the West, where our stadium is going to be built and where we're going to be around. But we've built some really good foundations in the community of Geelong and in the community of Ballarat that I think are going to be there forever. And the work we've done there was important. But I think we need to start also engaging with, where the larger community of the West is based and lives, and where more of the football fans play. I think I've been doing some analysis, and there's 108 clubs in the West in our area. That's a lot of clubs, let alone kids at schools, and there's a lot of families that play football in this community. So our challenge, and I mean, you guys do a great job, and I'm thankful for even inviting us onto this program, but it's important that we spread the message about the West, get everyone behind this club, and create a pathway for all our kids to aspire to be part of this club, both as supporters, as players, boys and girls. And I'll touch on the female strategy a bit later on, but it's important we build something that we're going to leave a legacy behind and that we're going to be proud of, and we've got to also pay respect. There's been clubs before us, and we're not immune to that. I know the history of football. The West is a region that's got a lot of history, and we've got to tap into that history and ensure that we respect it, and then build and ensure that we unite the game. The sooner we unite our game, the benefit for all of us in the West.
So you talked about the first year and really getting prepared, I guess, for second year. When you talk about the foundation, I guess creating the foundation, what do you think was the most important thing off the field that Western United could do? Was it creating brand awareness? Was it hitting that 5,000 threshold of members? Or was it just getting out to as many different centres as possible to let people know, hey, we're here, we're not going away, type of thing?
it's probably been a couple, and the number one thing is we need to do community and we need to do it well and we need to be real in the community. So we're lucky we've had a good community team, but we need to get even better. And I'm going to challenge my community guys. So I want to ensure that we visit every club in the West, every school in the West, and do it in a way that all our players, our staff are there and actually leave a legacy. So we can go and run a clinic and we leave a few balls there, but that's not what I'm thinking here. We need to build something that is for long term, that creates an opportunity for us to develop even more talent, because the West has produced a lot of football talent. So, and it also, it's an area where um, it's got a lot of communities, different communities, that we need to ensure we give them, the availability to come and watch professional football in this country. So for me, number one is the community. Number two is the foundations we have put in our stadium. Now, a lot of people haven't seen this, and a lot of the naysayers out there, I hear it all, guys. Don't worry. I'm aware of everything that's being said out there about us. But there'll be a time when we tell our story, and I say a big but, and for everyone, the time is soon, and you'll see. And we've spent, and I'm going to tell you the number we've spent. It's over 35 million to get to the position we're in, because in order to build a stadium, the due diligence, because we're not only building a stadium, we're building a city out there. It's going to have houses, it's going to have commercial, it's going to have a smaller stadium, it's going to have potentially, it's going to have 4 or 5 or 4 grounds additional to the stadium. So there's a lot of work going, the consultants, the thing, and we're lucky because we've got some amazing partners on this journey. The Wyndham City Council have been amazing in supporting us, and but we've got to go through a process. It's not like, I don't know who's built a house, and a lot of the people would have built.
Craig's building one right now as we speak.
Yeah,
how long does it take you to get a permit?
God knows what is trying to build a 20,000-seater stadium. So
correct. That's what I'm trying to say. So people think you can just go and get a permit. It's not as simple as that. The work that needs to be done, and I take a lot of my hat off to the owners and the vision that they had, but it wouldn't have happened without the city of Wyndham and the vision that they had. And there's a lot of people, I won't mention individual names, but there's a lot of people at the city of Wyndham who should be proud of the vision that they've had, and to partner with these owners who've had a great vision. Because, when we pull this off, and I say when, because it'll take a bit of time to get there, but it's not miles away. It's not like it's going to be 5 years away, but the reality is it takes time to even get permits and start, but we're not far away, So it's exciting, and it's something that I think, we got our license, let's be honest, we got our license December, about a year and a half ago, and we're nearly at the permit stage, which is, if you think about the whole thing, it's not that bad. And I know I'll read a lot of messages will say, well, you guys should have already turned soil and all that. Well, realistically, it's not possible when if you've worked on one of these major projects, the detail that is involved, roads, fauna and flora, indigenous overlays, all that kind of stuff. So
just touching on before I go on to another question, are the Football Federation Australia putting any pressure time frames on when the stadium needs to be built, Chris? Obviously, as part of the initial entry for you guys into the A-League, there would have been some kind of
around that. There is some parameters around that, but we've just got to work together with all those stakeholders. This could be the pathway. If we get this right, this is going to be the vision for that all clubs will need to follow. Because let's think about it. If we get this right, we're going to have an asset base and own a stadium where, if you look at all the other clubs in Australia, they haven't got, the only assets are their players, effectively. Mm-hmm. So, if we can build this and diversify our revenue stream, so then you're not, you might have a bad season and you lose $5 million. But if you've got diversified revenues and diversified income, and you own your own stadium, you've got a different asset base, this could be the game changer, the model that other clubs are going to follow. And this could be the path. And our game can do this because we're crying out for rectangular stadiums. Like if we had a rectangular stadium, and we'll talk about this a bit later on, but if there was one in the West now, we wouldn't need to go play in a 40,000 Geelong stadium, which is too big for a startup club. Let's be honest. We all put our hand up on that. There's nothing wrong about saying it's too big for us because we're not that big yet.
Well, we're talking to Chris Pehlivanis, the CEO of Western United. And Chris, a lot of what you're saying seems to resonate with a lot of viewers. We'll just bring up some of these comments that are actually saying Maxi Sentich, a good fan of our show, says, please play in rectangular shaped fields that do not have the fans 40 metres away. Make it attractive for us to keep coming and feel that game, and so fans create the atmosphere we can pass on for generations. Rado Prusac says, continuing to play at oval stadiums will do nothing for improving that membership base. No atmosphere, too far from the action for fans. And then Josephine Lapilla, the club ambassador for the local area. Josie does lots of great things. She's at Football Victoria. She says, good things take time. Now, an interesting comment there from Chris Briffa. Why can't you use Knight Stadium? Chris, next season, are there plans afoot to play maybe in more rectangular style stadiums? Is Knight Stadium one option? What about George Cross? Obviously, there will need to be some sort of changes and modifications made. But with the ever-changing climate that we're seeing in the A-League, and who knows if we're going to have Fox or not, who knows if we're going to have all of this money coming in, et cetera, are these feasible alternatives for until a new stadium is built?
Yeah, so we're looking at these options. It's fair to say we haven't got a lot of options. We are looking at 2 or 3 different venues out in the West, and one of them is Melbourne Knights, and our friends at Melbourne Knights have been very accommodating and working through those, because it's easy to say go and play at Knight Stadium, but there are some regulations that we need to accommodate. Are the lights enough lux? Are the security measures in place? If we're playing Melbourne Victory over there or Melbourne City, can we get their away fans in from get them in? But we need a stadium that is going to at least give us the ability to get 10,000 fans in at a minimum. So that gives us a couple of options, and one of those options will be Melbourne Knights. The other one, Whitten Oval. I think I'd be interested to hear with the fans that did experience Whitten Oval against Adelaide. I know it's an oval stadium, but we did push the stay closer to one side. And
there's actually a comment just come on there, Chris, from Michael Long. What you did at Whitten Oval, where you pushed the pitch nearer to the stand, was a good move. I was at that game as I was for most of them, and it was a much better atmosphere. You still had the people on the banks, you had the VIP area behind the one goal, but it was a far better experience than certainly I've experienced down at Geelong, where you're just too far in the stadium.
Correct, and we only got 2 weeks' notice of approval of that and 2 weeks to market that, and we still got a crowd of around 6,000 to 7,000 there. So, I mean, there are opportunities. We're doing our work. There could be an opportunity in the Wyndham area as well. So there are different opportunities that we're looking at. But I know you mentioned George Cross. I mean, they've been a great training base for us. However, in terms of, it doesn't accommodate for 10,000 people and 12,000 people if we look for a stadium like that. I mean, if we could get on our Whitten Oval, if we could get the Western Bulldogs, who have been also very great supporters of ours. I know they're a different code, but they've helped us out. If we were to, be able to put some stands on one side and, on the far side, and then have the corporate stuff behind the goals, I think that would be a great option as well. So I think we're going to work through all those solutions, but I'm positive we can do it. We're also looking at Amy Park as an option, and what we're looking at Amy Park is the ability to play a Melbourne Victory there, or even a double header like the old days. Two A-League games, one after the other. But we're working through with the A-League, and we've got to be a bit innovative with the FFA to ensure that we can deliver something and get more football fans to the games. If Melbourne City have got a game and then we back it up with a game against another team and interstate team, why not play a double header? But I think we learnt a lot this year, and we're also. I mean, if I had a rectangular stadium that had 10, 12,000 and that was fit for purpose, we would be moving in. I guess that's why we're building a stadium.
I think you need to talk to St Albans Saints. They built a small grandstand, I think, within a week. That was incredible, that. Maxi Santich, if you're listening, was it a week that you built that little grandstand there? It was incredible.
Just on St Albans there, I've refereed at a lot of venues, but St Albans was one of the most enjoyable. The banter you get from their loyal fans after a few beers is very good.
Well, behind the home dugout there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's probably anyway, we'll have a chat about that another time.
We'll talk about that. Speaking of fans and banter, we've got Hayden Ellis, who says Western Service crew had a blast that game. Good location too, referring to Western Oval. And Simon Camilleri, mate, who's often on this show, says not enough toilets at Whitton Oval. There you go.
And he's right. We learned. So we did a review post game.
Did you?
And that was something that we picked up as well. So I mean, it's a good point, Simon, and it's something that we learned. You know, it was our first ever game there, and it was if we were ever to play again there, we'd fix that issue.
Now, speaking of reviewing,
remember as well, Chris, you said right to the start. November, December was when you had the, we've only been going a year. The club's gonna make mistakes. All right. The learning is the learning from those mistakes. Okay.
Correct.
So it's gonna be a time frame on getting things together. You're telling me Melbourne City, Sydney, Wellington, Phoenix, Newcastle don't have problems? Of course they do. Yeah, it's about getting them and making sure that the club understands the reasons why and not making the same mistakes next time. So
correct.
I want to touch on, move on a little bit now. Otherwise, we will be here till 11 o'clock, and it's really fascinating. I hope we stay as long as we can. But I want to talk about the A-League. There's a lot of frustration going on with the competition at the moment. When's it starting? When's it not starting? AFL started, Rugby League starting, AFL. I can't even say it. It started tonight. It's not AFL, is it? It's Aussie rules. It's not even football. It's Aussie rules. Okay. To attract. What's the latest with the news regarding obviously the recommencement of training, I suppose?
Yeah.
And are there any time frames along when the season's going to start?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult situation. First thing I'll say is we're obviously a new club, and we've been very impressed by the unity of all the clubs and the desire to get back on the park. So yes, you'll hear things like the leagues, the A-League could be this, it could be that, it could be whatever. My point is this: we're all united that we want to play. The issue we've got, and COVID's created the issue, is with obviously the broadcaster, and so we've got to work through that issue. They clearly want a haircut, and so that's got to be worked through. But I mean, there's the FFA are doing a great job, Foxtel are doing a great job. They've been a massive supporter of the game. I think the solution will be found. I think we're just got to be patient. The other complexity we have, which the other codes don't have, and people, it's easy to throw stones, is in the AFL, they were mid-season, so they could just do a deal to the end of the year and move on. We were right at the end, and our contracts finished at 31 May, which meant, and you've got visa issues, you've got players meant to be going to other clubs, like what they're experiencing in Europe. People have transferred from the 1st of June, they're meant to be at other clubs. So it creates a lot of issues that you've got to work through. They're not simple issues, because I'll give you an example is, player X is earning 100 grand at Melbourne Victory. He's signed for Melbourne Western United next year for 300 grand because he's a young star, whatever. That kid wants to come to Western United because his salary is going to increase but for the integrity of the game, we've said, no, he's got to stay there for 3 months till we finish the season. But these deals just can't happen overnight because people are impacted, and so it's something we're working through. The aim is to obviously get the league, get us training as soon as possible. And there's the 17th of June or mid-June's been mooted as the day, and then start our competition in mid-July. So I think FFA's come public with that. That is our aspirational target, but we're all working towards that. So the ultimate aim is to complete this season by the end of August with the grand final, and then obviously shift our focus onto next season. My personal view is the quicker we finish, the better, because we also need a good lead into next year, because for us as a club, we want to get to all the communities. We want to build our sponsorship, membership base, and build for season 2 as well. So the longer this uncertainty drags out, I mean, as from a Western United point of view, it does create frustration, and people are getting frustrated. We want to see the game we love back on back on TV, and who knows? Within a couple of weeks, we might even get some fans coming to the game, which will be amazing as well.
I guess there's so much uncertainty, and I guess look, when it hit us all of a sudden and hit us so quickly. And look, the A-League was the last of the professional sports to stop.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's going to be the last of the professional sports to restart. So I guess obviously we can understand the frustration of the fans and the average punter out there. And I guess unbeknown to probably a lot of us, we don't know what happens behind the scenes. Has this disruption, you've already started talking about how you're planning on next year, but in a real fundamental way, how has the planning behind the scenes happened at Western United to really get maybe 1 foot up for next year?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a challenging time for all organisations and a lot of the clubs, and you'll hear some stories that everyone stood people down and other businesses have stood people down. I've been lucky enough, we've been able to keep most of our workforce employed, for 3-4 days a week. And with the view is we can't control what's happening this season. What we can control is what we're going to prepare for next season. So my workforce and my team and my executive team have been united to focus on let's get all our ducks in a row and let's get us focused on next year. So we've put a lot of work in. What are we going to do in the community space? What's our strategy on membership? What's our strategy on merch? We've locked away, our jumpers for next season. All that kind of stuff has already been done. We just need to know when we're going to start. And then from there, we'll work back in terms of executing all these strategies. So it's been a blessing, to be honest, from our point of view, because we took a deep breath, and the staff have been really focused on setting the good, even better foundations for next season. So I guess probably the only final piece we need to do is understand when the season's going to start, so then we can lock in what's going to be our home ground strategy. Is probably the only piece that's left, because if you start in January compared to November, it will change for the potential home venues.
Yeah.
So
just on that, and you talk about the training, getting back in the match venue. What are the plans for the training base going forward, Chris? It's obviously you're currently using George Cross up at Fraser Rise, which is a fantastic base for you for the club. Is the plan to move out to the new stadium to train, obviously when that's up and running? But in the meantime, is it a case of you stay at George Cross for a period, or what's the plans around that?
Yeah, I mean, George Cross has been fantastic. If you look at a startup club, to have a facility like what George Cross has delivered for us in the first year, it's been great. I guess the challenge for us at the moment and going forward is, obviously, as a new club and creating a culture, we want to expand, and we want to expand in women's football. We want to expand in academies. We want to expand in all that sort of stuff. The other thing is, I'm also a big believer that the club administration and football department, all that needs to be united, needs to be at one venue. At the moment, we're a little bit disjointed because we've got a head office in Truganina. We're at George Cross training, and then we play games somewhere else. So ultimately, when we build our stadium, it's all going to be together. If there's an opportunity to somehow, over this period, work towards something like that. But you've also got to remember that, George Cross is a very, very good training base and an elite training base for us. And, for the A-League would be one of the better things. So you're not going to compromise that just for the unity part. So, but it's something that we always keep looking at it. But clearly, George Cross has been a very good, for Western United has been very good.
Now, a lot of people are asking, even a rough estimate on the stadium. I suppose there's 2 points to that question. When would you like it? ASAP. But when realistically can we expect it? And we understand it's difficult in these COVID situation and what you're not. But is there realistically a time frame when fans can expect the new stadium to be up and running?
I can't give you an exact date because of COVID and the planning process. And we don't want to jeopardize that and put pressure on people, unwarranted pressure. But what I can say to everyone that's listening is this. We are doing everything we can to plan for the next 2 seasons, a home ground strategy for the next 2 seasons. with the view of that following season, so our fourth season, or what is it? It will be October 2022 to be in the new stadium. So that would be, that's what we're hoping for. But there's going to be a lot of work to be done to obviously deliver that.
Yeah.
But I guess it gives everyone hope that, it is, they're on the horizon. I suppose that's the big thing. And look, taking a step back now into the season just gone by, even though it hasn't completely finished, but from a crowd perspective, Western United somewhat struggled to get bums on seats, especially down Geelong, and I suppose to an extent Ballarat. But if we're going to look at it assessment-wise, from a community engagement viewpoint, in my opinion, the club scored a 10 out of 10. It was a brilliant job. The recent Easter lockdown period also saw the club drop off, about 100, 200 soccer balls or something like that to various households. That's what we are told. That seemed to be a big hit, didn't it?
Yeah, it was, again, it was difficult because of COVID. We had to get exemptions from the police. So we wanted to do more.
Is that right?
Yeah, we had to get because don't forget that was in the peak of COVID. It just So we had to write to the police and get an exemption to deliver the balls, and we had to wear gloves, and we had to go follow all the different protocols. So, we did, I think, nearly 200, but we wanted to do more. And so some fans did miss out, but we tried to get to as many families as we could with a view we'll do similar things to that. Yeah, in terms of bums on seats, it depends what your expectations are. I mean, we're a startup club. I always go back to this and say, 7 months, no one knew who we were. 7 months later, we're in the A League, and we're getting crowds. We're getting crowds between 5, 7, 11,000. We got a crowd we played in front of a crowd of 20 against Melbourne Victory. The first time we played in town, and that was an amazing day for us. So if your expectations are for it to be bigger, we'd all love it to be bigger. But I'm patient. I think what we're going to do is work and be aspirational that, next year, let's try and get an average of 7.5, 10.
Yep.
And then by the time we get into our 15,000 seat stadium, let's pack it out. And you know what? If you want to get in, you have to buy a season ticket. That's aspirational. But I think from a startup club, it was, I would have loved more, but it was okay. I think
so. You're pretty satisfied looking at it from a club business point of view.
Correct. Yeah. No, we are satisfied. But I think as Geelong was a tough market too. I think our first 3 games it was torrential rain, and the other thing is I think what we can do better, and I'll bang on this, and a lot of your listeners will know this, is we need to unite our game. We need people in the West to believe. And FFE's got to play a role in this, and everyone's got to play a role that we need everyone to believe that we're the club for the West, and every kid needs to, they needs to be able to know who we are, and then bug their parents to bring us to our game. That's my goal. If I can do that, I think, because when kids come to our game, I know they have a great time. So I think we've all got to work hard, and it's all our job. Everyone that's involved in a club in the West, it's your job to promote our game and then promote Western United as your club aspirationally. And you know what? We'll work well together because, there should be a pathway for these kids to eventually end up at Western United. There should be a pathway for them to get jobs at Western United. There should be a pathway for them to be members or part of the Western Services crew. Whatever it needs to be, we need to create that pathway. There's no reason. And it's the fastest growing community, I think, in Australia potentially, or one of the fastest. So
and it's one of the reasons why, all joking aside, why we started this show, Chris, to try and engage with the Western clubs. It was the whole reason behind this was to get clubs to come on and talk about their club, what their club's doing well, what their club could do better. And we've just decided that we branch it out a little bit further, but it's a show for the West, and we want more and more people to get involved with it. It is the fastest growing sport in Australia. It's the biggest sport in the world. People should be.
Craig, I'd like to think that we're very, very progressive and we're innovative. If it wasn't for this show, the golden generation would have got together. They wouldn't have been talking about that. So we want Western United to be just as innovative and trendsetters. And from all accounts, Chris, with this whole concept of a stadium and a stadium precinct, as you said, a city, we're certainly going to go down that path. Isn't that right, Craig?
Absolutely.
You are spot on.
Let's get back into questions. On-field matters, Chris.
Go for it.
been a number of questions on the side, and I'm gonna come out and say it because the listeners want to know what's the situation with Alessandro Diamante. Look, I had the pleasure of watching him for a number of years in the UK, and every time I've seen him on the pitch over here, he is just a total different class to anybody on the pitch. Is he going to be a player at the club next season?
Deer is has been amazing for the league and for Western United. So, what we need to do is one, finish off the season. So I've been in constant discussions with Deer. We're going to get one thing straight. So a lot of people are asking the context on Diamante. So there's been a lot of rumours about Deer going to Melbourne Victory and other clubs, and Deer wants to stay in Melbourne. Deer wants to stay in Australia. So that's a positive. First thing I've got to say is no player can leave another team in this window for the next 3 months if the league goes on. So if Diamante is a Western United player, he needs to finish off the season as a Western United player. Deer's view is this, and Deer is a professional, and I can't talk highly enough for Diamante. So myself and Deer are in constant conversation. We talk probably every 2 days about this issue. The problem we have is one. I don't know when next season's starting yet. I don't know what I can offer him. I don't know any of that stuff. Although we have a framework set up, Deer and I are in constant conversation, and I know that even if Deer is going to go somewhere else, we will have a conversation. My belief is that Deer and our will at Western United is for Diamante to be signed next year. We want Diamante, so we can say that out loud. I also want Diamante to stay, and I've said it publicly before, post his playing career at our club. So, there might be an opportunity for Diamante to, start mentoring some of these kids in the West, or, coach some of our academies and give back to the, community in the West, because he wants to stay in Melbourne. Imagine, we had a group of, let's call them under 14 boys or girls come to training, and they've been trained by Diamante. One of probably the best players that has graced our shores in the recent times. So, I haven't answered that. Is he definitely staying? Because no, we haven't signed him yet. But our intention is, we're gonna do all we can to sign him. But sometimes, you can't get what you wish for either. But we're gonna try our best.
Maybe we need Giovanni and Sarah and Werribee City down there to offer him free spaghetti bolognese for the rest of his life at the Werribee Italian club. There would be a good idea to have him on board post career. That would be such a big boost. And we talk about players that have made such a big impression. I know my kids. They were absolutely impressed with Diamante and wanted to watch Western United just because of him. The buck stopped with the kids asking for tattoos like Alessandro Diamante. That couldn't accommodate that. But
hopefully we can get it to sign. Hopefully we can get him on this show as well, guys. That would be that would be
fantastic. Look, he's a different gravy to anybody that I've seen in the A League. Just his passion. When things are going wrong on the pitch, he's the one that's shouting and bawling, and he's 36 years old, coming to the end of the career, but he's got such an appetite for the game that it's contagious. And you only got to go and sit and watch him. And if you just, all the youngsters that are listening to the show, if you get a chance to just go and sit and watch them train, the Western United, watch a game. Don't take your eyes off him. Just watch what he does on the park when he has got the ball. More importantly, what he's doing when he hasn't got the ball. He's unbelievable, and certainly one of the best left foots I've ever witnessed. So.
Yeah. Now, Josie Lapila, the club ambassador, says, look after the needs of local clubs and the respect will be given. Keep up the great work you do for football. And in her Facebook profile, she's got, looks like an Italian flag. So she'd be definitely wanting a Diamante to stay there. But a big shout out to Pete Bradley from the community team. I know he's been a big fan and big supporter of our show. And last year we gave so many double passes away to some of the games and what you're not. But that comment that Josie makes, Western United, particularly the community department, they have really gone out to clubs and asked them, what do you need from us? So from that point of view, it's been a phenomenal breath of fresh air, if you like, because with all due respect to all the other A-League clubs, I don't know if too many of them are actually doing that. So that's certainly one thing that Western United ought to be commended upon.
Yeah, Tony, we want to do more. Tonci, we want to do more there. The issue I've got is I need to work with clubs and Josephine and people like that to understand what meaningful contribution looks like. Going to do it just an event and bringing our players, we can do all that. But is that what clubs are wanting, or is it something more from Western United? So we've touched the surface, but my thing is, how do we get all the clubs in the West to really believe we're their club, and what do we need to do to show them that? That's the aspirational. I guess, vision that we have is. So we've got Pete, and he's an amazing ambassador, but he's only one. What we need to do is we need to roll out 4 or 5 of these and get out to as many clubs as we can, because reality is with Pete, he's only one. He's going to get to 5, 50 clubs. But I want to get to every club and leave something there meaningful behind.
Chris, what's your research suggest? I mean, obviously the clubs are so diverse, so different. There are 108 clubs there in the West, and they've all got their own agendas, if you like, or whatever the case. What has your research suggested to you that the clubs most want?
It's an interesting one. I think they want to really feel part of the club. It's an interesting one. My view is, can we work with these clubs to, show them that we're genuine by providing them, for example, a tool to help them coach their kids, to help them, develop their talent or something like that. And it might be, in today's society, an app. It might be, a weekly coaching tip from Mark Rudin, our head coach, or from our goalkeeping coach, or something like that. But it's got to be meaningful, and it's got to be easy for them to access. I don't know what the answer is, and we've got to do some more research here. But I think it's going to be interesting. And we've got to be careful too. So everyone's banging on about let's have academies, and I'm a big believer that we should do academies. But what I don't want to do is go and steal all the best kids from all the clubs in the West and give them nothing in return. So we've got to be careful how we do that as well. So if anyone has any good ideas out there in terms of making sure that we do it in a proper way, I envisage that our teams, our youth teams and our women's teams and our academies are going to be predominantly based out of the kids from the West. But, well, what I don't want to do is then, everyone to say, oh, look, Western United took our kids and left nothing behind. But what I want to do is make sure, because the reality is, and we all know this, we're all football people, out of those kids, probably, 2, 3 may make it. The rest are going to end up back at these clubs, back at playing football in the West. So we've just got to make sure we do it in a way that, we're not stealing kids, but we're creating a pathway, and a genuine pathway, and then they get the benefit. They get the kids back at hopefully at even better quality. But anyway, it's something that we're going to give a lot of thought to, and something we're going to work with the clubs in the West, and we're going to ask a lot of questions, and we're going to do this properly.
No, that's a really good comment you said then about giving something back to the clubs, because we've touched on this over the last few weeks about what does it look like. Too many clubs now take the best players, and those kids might have been at that club since they were 8 years old. Now they're 15, got an opportunity to go to a pro club. What's giving back to the club that's coached him for those 8 years? So it's really important that that's taken into account, I think, as well. But look, it's great to see that the club are thinking. We keep going back, Chris. We are only the club is only a year old.
No, we've had Steve Horvath come on the show and say that, but it's great to hear that it's an ongoing philosophy, that it's not just hearsay and we're hearing it once, but it's and I've heard this from a couple of people at Western United, giving back to the clubs, giving back to the region, and that sort of customer engagement and that customer relationship building takes time, like everything else, but it's certainly heading in the right direction. All right, we've talked about Alessandro Diamante, and there's also a few people saying, is he free next Tuesday to take under 12s training? My wife makes a great lasagna we can eat after training. But other players, which other players are coming off contract, and who has been secured for next season at this stage?
Yeah, we've got probably about 15 of our players secured for next season, so we don't have that many coming off. So Bess is signed for next year. One of our, obviously, scored another, I don't know, what is he at, 15 goals already this year? I mean,
Yeah, he's incredible, that guy.
He's an amazing person too, off the field. I mean, Bess for me is, yeah, I mean, you see him on the park, and then off the park, he's an amazing leader. He's an amazing person to work with. So, I mean, I've been blessed to work with someone like Bess. He's taught me a lot of things off the park. So, yeah, most of our boys are signed up. There's a couple that are not, that I want to re-sign, but again, we're waiting on. So in the Diamante bucket, there's about 4 or 5 that we want to re-sign. Yeah, I mean, that's something, you know. But we also want to build our squad. You know, I'm really big on, you know, rewarding players, you know, that are, you know, they might have a year to go, but giving him an extra year. Someone like Maxi Burgess, who's come on, you know, even a player like Josh Rizzo, Aaron Calvers of the world, you know, that's going to be our, you know, that's our future. That's our core of our future. But anyway, we're going to work through that. But there is clearly, we've got a good base to work from.
Well, the 2 players you just mentioned there, Max Burgess and Josh Risdon, you know, we talk about Diamante and Berisha, and those guys have been fantastic this year. When Max Burgess has played, he's changed the game in most games. And Josh Risdon must be on. I don't know what he's on, but I don't know how the guy does so much running. I've never seen anybody run. The last person I've seen run as much as him was Cafu, I think it was, for Brazil. He's just constantly up and down that right wing. How he does it, I don't know. But you know, they would certainly be 2 players that I would be very, very keen on seeing at the club, because they are the future of the club, Chris, as you said.
Just on, I'm just going to answer Chris. He's written 2 good questions on there. Chris Briffer, I think he is. I'm a big believer, mate, in terms of community clubs or NPL clubs. I don't differentiate, mate. A club's a club for me, and we've got to work with all the clubs. So if there's a good kid in the community club, let's give him an opportunity. I mean, and the other thing is, I mean, I come from an AFL background where, I mean, I'm a football person, but I've had the opportunity to work in the AFL for 8 years, where we'd run at Essendon Football Club, we'd run a community day and have 2,000 kids in Bombers jumpers rock up to our club to do a holiday program. That's something that I think, Chris, you've suggested there. That's something we're going to bring in next year, where we'll have our boys train, come and watch them train, and then do some clinics with, you know, if we can have even at George Cross is, you know, how many pitches is there? 4 or 5 pitches. If we can have, you know, all those pitches full of kids, and they come in and they do something, you know, for at least 3 or 4 days, even in pre-season and then during the season, I think it's going to be a great opportunity for us. I think a lot of that work needs to be done in pre-season, because the funny thing is, when we're playing during the season, a lot of kids are on holidays, and it's hard to. The thing that I found hard is to gauge with clubs in terms of during the summer periods, because they're always shut down, most of them. You know, when we start October, November, December, I was trying to get kids to come to our games or march around and things, and it's hard to engage with the clubs because they've either shut down for the, you know, it's off season. So I think what we've got to do is ensure that we do all the work, so then in the off season we can get them to the games. But it's important. It's something that I think is very important.
There have been suggestions, or I guess, suggestions from various quarters, particularly now in the COVID lockdown era, about changing the season. And I think this has even come from the Golden Generation themselves, changing the season to align with the NPL and the grassroots, and playing from a February, March, potentially through to a November. What's your personal opinion about that? Because in that way, it probably goes hand in hand with what you just said. Then it'd be easier to connect with some of those local community clubs.
Yeah, I think it could be a disaster.
Oh, right. Why?
I'll tell you why. If we go up against the AFL and NRL head-to-head from a broadcast point of view, so if on a Friday night you've got a Western United and you've got Collingwood playing Richmond, it's dangerous. It's very dangerous. The other thing is, what we've got to be careful is, all our kids are playing football in the winter. So if you're under 18s and you're playing at 3 o'clock on a Sunday or a Saturday, and your game finishes at 5:30, or a seniors game, these are all the people that come to our games or should be coming to our games. And if they're dragged away to all their local clubs, and then we drag them away to Western United, A, that's a problem. They should be helping their local clubs. But two, to get them to come to Western United to watch a game might be challenging. I think the window we've got is okay. I really do. We just got to be careful by going into winter. We don't compete against each other, because you know what? If the NPL's on every week, I'm there watching a game. If not, I'm going to be dragged away to Western United. Everyone that's listening is probably the same. So we just got to be careful what we're trying to, I guess, achieve by going to the winter season.
And that's a really good point. Everyone talks about moving to a winter season and coming up against the other football codes and what you're not. But very few people actually say moving into the winter season, you're then competing against your own. So you're competing against the NPL, you're competing against the community leagues. That makes a hell of a lot of sense, Chris.
Yeah.
Craig, did you have a question?
Yeah, I want to touch on the academy. You touched on it very, very briefly, Chris, and I know time's getting on now, but I just want to touch on the academy. When do you see the academy taking shape? Is it something that's in the plans for the next 12 months, 24 months? Is it a case of when the stadium opens, when you've got the pitches? Because of course, one of the big issues that the club will have is facilities to accommodate a team that's going to be playing for 40 weeks of the year. Where's the club in terms of the academy, and what sort of ages are you looking to start from? And does it involve both girls and boys?
I'm very aspirational, and I want to do it as soon as we can. However, we need to get the model right, and we need facilities, and two, it needs to be for boys and girls. I'm actually gutted, and I'll touch on it now, that we can't have a women's team in the W League, and I'm actually even more gutted that we can't even potentially have a women's team in the NPLW at the moment. So we've got to go through a process which may take a year or 2 years' time. For me, that is, it's challenging, and I'll tell you why it's challenging. Because as a startup club, we're going to be like every other club and organisation that's been in professional sport and just focus on your men's side, whereas we've got a chance to embed the women's side and the diversity from day one. And the benefits of doing that, not only from of the obvious benefits, but even just, as humans, being, having equality in our organisation from day one is going to give us a lot of opportunities. So I'm really focused, and I'm really focused on the women's side and making sure, A, we get a W League team, and two, to ensure that we do it in a manner that whatever we do in an academy space is done for both boys and girls.
Chris, why you touched on that? What's the problem? Why can't Western United have a team in the W League? We spoke earlier today how Wellington Phoenix are talking about wanting to have a team in the W League themselves, and they might be based here in Australia to cut costs. Is it the problem at FFA at the moment? Are they just holding things back, or what seems to be the holdup?
I think the reality is it's probably two issues. The first issue is they'll say is a talent issue. However, my view is that's rubbish. We'll build it. They will come. Let's create the talent. We've got enough talented girls in the West. You know what? We'll get the best coaches and we'll develop the talent. And you know what? Maybe we're not competitive in the first year or second year, but I promise you something, with the right infrastructure and right training, we'll develop the talent. There's enough girls playing our game out there. That's one thing. I think the other one is clearly a financial thing from the head office, in terms of, putting an extra team or two might create an extra fixtures. The cost of running that is probably, $1 million or whatever it is. Only they know that, but clearly it's a financial thing too. But it doesn't mean we're going to not stop pushing, because we want that, and it's important we get it. I'm equally as passionate that there's got to be a pathway. At the moment, I see Simon's comment. Not enough female players, Chris. I think there is. I disagree. I think we can develop them. I think we can. If you build it, and if you build the right infrastructure and the right academies, I'll ask you this question: how many clubs in the A League are developing, and how many clubs are developing, even in the NPL, are developing young girls and academies in that space?
Mm.
So if you're going to do it properly. So build academy. I know it costs money, but there's ways to get this thing funded. But build the pathways from 12, 14, 16-year-old girls that can come all the way through.
Mhm.
So yes, it may take some time, but we need to ensure that there's a pathway there for girls, and especially in the West. And so um, I'm adamant that we need to do it, and we need to do it quickly.
Now, that's
Oh,
great news. That's great news for women's football, Chris.
absolutely.
I know there's a lot of talented young girl footballers around.
And there's a lot
You
of
know,
young,
I get to see them
talented.
most weekends with my daughter, and it's there's some fantastic young footballers out there.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing is there's a lot of young, talented coaches, female coaches, and administrators, and they need to be in part of our game. We can't lose them to other codes, and we need to keep them in our game and give them a pathway for coaching and playing.
Absolutely. On a positive note, we have seen a positive note off the field. A wonderful cause that the club did become involved with, and that was a partnership with local-based charity Food Bank Victoria. And I'm told it's for the 2021 season for next year. Tell us a bit more about that and what's involved in that.
Yeah, so Food Bank is our charity partner. Um, Food Bank is an organisation that you get as an A-League club, you get approached with a lot of charity partners. I guess why Food Bank was important to us is A, they're based out of the West. Two is the most important thing is I was staggered, but 1 in 5 people in Victoria have experienced food insecurity in the last 12 months. I mean, is a statistic that I think 1 out of 5 kids go to school without food or something like that. And when I took my executive group and my coaching group through this, when I told them about this organization, they just told us, where do we sign up with this organization and how can we make a difference? How can we partner
Mhm.
with these guys to help them, A, create bigger awareness, and two, get some funds redirected to help kids have a proper meal so then they can train and they can play and they can. So there's a clear connection for us between from nutrition into sport. And so that's why it was a partner that close to my heart and something that I think if we do properly, from a club point of view, um, allows us to go to all these communities and make a real difference. And again, back to making a difference. We say let's make a difference to our own communities in football, but this is another example of doing things properly and ensuring we'll make a difference in the community in the West and going and helping underprivileged people. That we can convert into football fans, even if they're not football fans. It doesn't have to be there. So it's something that I'm really, really proud of. And it just shows that, you know, when people, all the naysayers out there say things about Western United, you got to look at the surface and look at all the good things we're doing in the community, like a food bank partnership, it's not for the near future. This is something that, I want Food Bank to be a partner of ours for the next 5 years and
Mm.
our charity partner as we expand.
Fantastic. Great stuff.
Oh, brilliant! I think it's a great initiative, and more and more clubs should be involved in that type of thing. And it just shows, again, we talked about it, how far the club has come in a year or so. I've not been directly involved, but I've seen as everybody has the rise of the club over the last 12 months, and it's only going to get bigger and stronger. But things take time, Chris. They don't happen overnight, and people have to be aware of that and patient. And good things, as Josephine said, be patient, and good things will come from it. So there are a lot of supporters on tonight, Chris. Do you have any final words of wisdom for all the Western United fans out there?
Um, I'm just going to say a big thank you, firstly, to everyone in the West, everyone that supports our club. Thank you for coming on the journey with us. I think we're privileged to have been able to create a club in the West, and now I just want to make it very inclusive. I want to give everyone an opportunity to support this club. My ambition is that every person in the West, boy, girl, um, parents, everyone, to have the ability to come to our games and be part of the journey that we're going to go on. I guess our club is nothing without the members and the volunteers that help our club. Our staff and players, all right, we're all paid. We're living our dream. But without your volunteers and without your members, we're nothing. You know, we're something we're proud of at Western United is our volunteer program. We've been able to put a program together that gives us a proper program for volunteers to taste what it looks like and give people an opportunity to be involved in the community and in a professional club, and then it gives them a taste, and later on that can transform into greater engagement and even employment opportunities for those people in the future. So that's something that we've built. Our HR director Shane Day has been instrumental with that, with Pete Bradley, in terms of developing that program, and it's something that we're proud of. But as I go back, this club is really for the people of the West. I'm thankful to the Western Services crew, to everyone involved at WFC, all the other member groups. We're there for you guys. We want to make you guys proud. We can't wait to get back on the field to do what we do. But ultimately, I say this is our opportunity to do something and leave a legacy for the people of the West. And be respectful. I know there's been clubs in the NSL in the West. I know there's a lot of clubs, community clubs and NPL clubs with a lot of history in the West. However, we need to unite those clubs behind us and show everyone that this is our opportunity to make a difference. Because if we're fractured, that's what other people want to see. That's what other people want to, that's their opportunity to find weaknesses in us. I do have one problem with you guys as well, is I'm going to actually send you one of our tops to have behind, because you don't have an official top behind, and I need to send you guys an official top.
Rob Palmicciotti texted me this afternoon.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah. I'll read it.
I've got my cap. We're on board. We're on board.
I know you're on board, but I need to give you an official top from the first season.
Rob Palmicciotti's told me this afternoon. He said, "Put it on Chris tonight to get a hurry up. I'm sure he will oblige." So he's obviously
he would do that. He would throw me under the bus. But anyway,
there you go. Well, we got a couple more comments. It's great to see a lot of fun banter happening and discussions happening in our comments thread. Chris Briffa says, hand in hand, Western United, get involved in the community, which will build a culture and a membership base. Well done, Chris. Keep the job going. Fantastic stuff there. Josie Lapilla, who's a big Richmond supporter, watching that other crazy sport. She says, great announcement. Volunteers are the most valuable human beings in football. Well said. Well, I'd actually say well said, Josie. The most valuable human beings in football, absolutely. And it is really, really fantastic just to see a lot of love, a lot of support out there, but also from the club themselves. Chris, thank you very much once again for coming on the show. We've really appreciated it. It's almost been 90 minutes, but for me, I don't know about you guys, it's been compelling listening to hearing the insight of what he's building and an exciting foundation behind the scenes.
Yeah, look, it's really good to listen to you, Chris, and see what the outlay looks like for Western United. Us as fans of the football club in the West here, want to see a successful football club in the West. The club have gone from strength to strength over the last 12 months, and you can see that in everything that they've done. Results have been good. If we haven't touched on that, but if you'd have said you'd the chance of being in the top 6 at the start of the season, you probably said yes, we want to win it. But the reality is, that's always the pie in the sky stuff. But the club are doing fantastic things on the field and brilliant stuff off the field. And long may it continue, and keep up the great work, mate, because you're doing a great job.
Thanks a lot, guys, and look forward to jumping on in a month or so with even more news for the fans.
That's what I was going to suggest, but you've taken the word out of my mouth. So the invitation is most certainly there. We'd love to see you in a month or 2 months and have a better indication of what the immediate future awaits. Thanks very much.
Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Chris.
That was Chris. That was the CEO of Western United, Chris Pehlivanis, who had some really, really interesting things to say about the club and what awaits supporters on the road over the next couple of years.
Yeah, look, really interesting, and as he kept saying, it is a long journey. It's not something that they can't just pick up sticks and move to a new ground
No.
straight. There's a lot of infrastructure in place with this, and I know Morris is heavily involved in that uh,
Side of
part
things, yep.
of the club. So look, just keep watching his space, guys. I think it's he was very open and honest with his questions there, and certainly seems to be doing a great job. And as I said, long may it continue, because it is our club. It's in the West, and we all need to get behind and support them as much as we can.
Some good comments there, particularly the one about moving to a winter season would be nothing short of a disaster. So that is really interesting how he said that. He also he's feeling gutted about the fact that they can't have a women's team in the W League at the moment, and not even in the local WNPL Victoria competition. But with the WNPL Victoria competition, obviously, I think that's undergoing a little bit of a restructure. And we've heard from I think Peter Philopoulos in the past as well that watch that space, because there will be changes and likelihood of WNPL expanding in the foreseeable future, or would have been the case if it wasn't for the COVID disruption. But before we go, Craig, it's time for you fans out there to show your support and become a member of the Football Out West show. You can become a member of our show and make it your show, folks. And to do that, just go onto the website, and it's down the bottom of the screen. Visit the following website, www.patreon.com/Football Out West show. Now, our Gold VIP, our inaugural Gold VIP member, Paul de Blasi, signed on during the week. Also, our very, very first silver member, and in fact, our first member full stop, he's our number one ticket holder, Christopher Cruz, signed up also during the week. And I do believe it's Vladimir Zetovic has signed on as a bronze member during the course of this show. I think that is the case. That's the tickers coming to me, and I'm getting that. So that's fantastic news. And look, what we are trying to do is trying to build this brand, trying to build this show. And mate, we're not going to talk too much about it now, but we've got some huge, huge plans in the pipeline ourselves that will benefit state league clubs and community clubs outside of the NPL, but also some of the NPL2 and NPL3 clubs. But it's all part of our grand vision that we've got, Craig, of really becoming bigger and better, and the Football Out West show becoming an iconic figure in the lives of people in the western suburbs.
Yeah, absolutely, Tonci. We can't talk too much about it because there's a lot of stuff that we need to sort out first. But as we keep saying, week in, week out, we're trying to make the show bigger and better every time we come on. And again, like Chris was saying with his club, it takes time. Things don't happen overnight. There's lots of things that I've spoken to you about and said we need to do this, we need to do that, and you've come back to me and said we need to do. It takes time, but we can't do it without your support. So, if you want to see the show continue, get better week in, week out, you can see from the guests that we have, we work very hard behind the scenes to get good guests on week in, week out. If you want to be part of that and help us grow the station, as we call it, and make us bigger week in, week out, then please get involved with us. We'd love to see you joining us.
Now, next week, we hope to be getting a very important guest, and that is Paul de Blasi, who is our Gold VIP member. But not only that, he's also involved, I believe, with Sunbury United. And there's something very, very interesting football-related that he's got in the pipeline as well, that's going to be massive for the western suburbs, and hopefully we'll be talking about that. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we're working on it. We're also hoping to get a guest that's going to give us a very big insight into football in the Ballarat region as well. So we are branching out, and we're moving. We're really encompassing the entire western suburbs. But in the meantime, show your support. Become a member of the Football Out West show. Visit our following website, www.patreon.com/Football Out West show. We really, really do need your support. But before we go, Craig, we are back on Sunday. Tell us about Sunday's show.
Yes, at Sunday evening, Football Fan Zone. It's your opportunity, guys. There's lots of comments coming in on the right-hand side of the box here tonight, or underneath on Facebook. But Sunday night's your opportunity to come on and have your say. It's we open up the phone lines from 7 o'clock. and we try and get as many callers through as we can. So if you've got any questions, any topics, any debate that you want to get started, give us a call, text us on 0497 151 234. Send your text messages through now, and we'll get back to you during the show or before the show on Sunday. But Sunday night, 7 till 8 o'clock, your chance to get on air and have your say.
Absolutely. On that note, thank you very much for being with us for the past hour and a half. We've gone into stoppage time. Referee's about to blow the final whistle. Thank you very much for being a part of our show. Really, really appreciated it. Until next week, all the very, very best. And remember, football, the real football, is the best sport in the world, without a shadow of a doubt.
Vista is the local bistro at Fraser Rise in Caroline Springs, situated at the George Cross Soccer Club at City Vista Reserve. With the current COVID-19 pandemic, we've adjusted our menu and our business times. Bistro dining is back with 2 dining sessions Monday to Saturday between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. Numbers are limited, so bookings are essential on 7021 0555. Head to georgiesonvista.com.au to check out the menu and the dining times. We're also doing takeaway 5 nights a week, Monday to Friday. You can order your meal, kids' meals, or your favourite snack meals via email. info@georgiesonvista.com.au, or phone your order through on the night between 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. on 7021 0555. Or better still, just rock up on the night and place your order. Visit georgiesonvista.com.au to see the dine-in and takeaway menus and for business hours. Get behind local business and dine